Hey everybody, Bill Huffine here. Thanks for dropping in on this video. It's good to see you. The year 2020 is going to go down as one of those years that I think people are going to be talking about for generations to come. Just the same as I grew up, listening to my grandparents talking about the Great Depression of the 1920s and the 1930s, or listening to my grandpa talk about serving in World War II. I think 40 or 50 years from now, children are going to grow up hearing stories about 2020. And maybe it'll be referred to as the Great Pandemic or maybe another Great Depression. If I'm still around 20 or 30 years from now, I'll probably be referring to it as the Great Undoing or the Great Collapse or the Panic of 2020. But whatever it's called, I think it's going to be remembered as a year that we all learned 4 very important lessons about life that hopefully will be passed on to future generations so that they'll be better equipped to endure national or global terrifying events than we were. So here are my thoughts on the 4 great lessons of 2020. I think the first lesson that 2020 taught us is that everything in our lives can change in a moment. We make our plans, we go about our daily lives with pretty much the same routine, day to day, week after week, year after year, trying to make steady progress toward those plans and those goals and those dreams that we have for the future. And maybe we think that we have things pretty well figured out and feel good about our progress, about where we are in life, what we have, and what we spend our time doing. And then this year showed us that in a matter of days, with a stroke of a pen, everything in our life is instantly changed. Our jobs and careers can come to a sudden full stop. Our businesses can be ordered shut down indefinitely by an executive order. Our income can vanish, followed by our savings, and where we were maybe once debt-free, we now have no choice but to live off of credit cards, just to pay our bills and to meet our daily needs and amass large quantities of debt. Our kids can no longer go to school. We can't go to church. We can't even visit sick, aging, dying family members. All of our favorite entertainment and pastimes just don't exist anymore. I don't think that there is a human being in the United States of America today that hasn't experienced a massive change in their life in the year 2020. So when everything in life changes and so much is taken away, there's one really important thing that I think we need to do. We need to ask ourselves a question, and that question is this. In the midst of this great void, what is really important? What is the one thing or the few things that we need to make sure that we pour all of our time and energy and passion and love into to make our lives meaningful and fulfilling when everything else is taken away? When we figure that out and we reorient our lives around those most important things, I think our life on the other side of times like this will likely be much simpler, with us much more focused on only those things that really matter in life. And maybe we'll find ourselves much better prepared to handle future crises better than we handled this one. So for me, the second lesson of 2020 is this, that the only thing we can depend on is ourselves. I think we all came to understand in 2020 that nobody is going to come rushing in on a white horse to rescue us and save us and make our lives better when everything around us is falling apart. Now, sure, the government threw a little money our way for a short period of time to cushion some of the financial blow that we were all taking. And you may have had some good friends or family members to come in and check on you to help you out. But in the big picture and for the long haul, the way that we get through times like this, not just surviving, but thriving, is fully dependent upon the strength of our own character, the steadiness of our own mind, and our own ability to make good decisions for ourselves and for our families. When we're in a time like this, I think another really important question that we need to ask ourselves is this: what strengths do I have that will help me to not just survive, but thrive through this? But on the other side of that, we need to ask, what weaknesses do I have that if I allow them, they'll just turn me into another sad statistic? And how do I live each day with my strengths fully in play and my weaknesses in full submission to my strengths? So the third thing that became really clear in 2020 is that crisis and upheaval brings out the best or the worst of us. As the economic collapse and financial fears and social shutdown and isolation and all of the stress and anxiety and depression that comes along with those things dragged on for months, we saw one event set off a chain reaction of violence and murder and destruction in cities all across the country in ways that we haven't seen in a few generations. But at the same time, we continued to see healthcare workers sacrificing themselves lovingly for the sake of others. We saw good people come behind bad people and try to clean up and repair and rebuild the cities that they destroyed. Terrible times like we saw in 2020 will cause us to move in extreme ways to the predominant expression of our character. People who are broken, wounded, confused will explode into people who create brokenness, badly wound other people, and create confusion and chaos. Whereas people who are healthy and strong and virtuous are going to see times like this as the opportunity to help and to heal and to comfort and to bring goodness and kindness into a really dark situation. A lot of us find ourselves somewhere in the middle, sparked into a moment of rage one moment, then feeling remorseful about it, and then showing kindness and love the next. So a third question that I think we need to ask ourselves in times like this is this: as the world is falling apart around me, is the way that I'm living bringing light into the darkness, or is it contributing to the darkness? And if it's the latter, how do I change that? Finding ways to bring healing into a broken world, it's also going to bring healing into your own broken heart and broken soul. Finally, I think the fourth lesson that we learned in 2020 is that when everything has fallen apart, been stripped away, we have the opportunity to actually remake our life the way that we really wanted it to be in the first place. When I was 18 years old, my parents bought a 100-year-old farmhouse, and they moved us out of the home that I'd lived in since I was 5 years old. And though I knew I was only going to be in the new house for a couple years, I just did not want to move into that old farmhouse. The yard was all grown up in weeds. The plaster walls and ceilings were cracked and even falling down in some places. Some of the rooms had wallpaper that was peeling off the walls. The floors were gross. There was no air conditioner or furnace, just fans in all of the room and a wood-burning stove for the winter. It was bad. I did not want to move into that farmhouse. But as soon as we moved in, my parents and my grandpa started busting down walls, tearing down ceilings, ripping out wiring and plumbing and rebuilding it room by room. They got to my bedroom and I got to pick out my new carpet color. I got to decide what color the walls were going to be. I got to pick out the ceiling fan. I'd never had a ceiling fan before. That was pretty cool. Heating and air units were installed in the house. The siding, the roof, the windows were all replaced. Dad started landscaping the grounds. He dug a beautiful lake. Mom started planting shrubs and flowers and grapevines around the property. And within a few years, the broken down old farm was transformed into a beautiful country sanctuary that over the decades I escaped to every chance that I had. And one of the deepest griefs in my life was the day that it had to be sold, as my father became ill and could no longer care for it. It would have never become the sanctuary that it became to me and my family until what it was first torn down and ripped away. Our lives were all, to varying degrees, torn apart in 2020. We have the framework still standing. Everything that wasn't important is gone. We've learned that we alone are the authors of our story. Nobody else is. We're figuring out how to bring light into the darkness and not snuff out what light there is with our own darkness. And from here, we can begin creating a whole new life, exactly the way we want it. We get to pick out the design and the colors and the shape that it will take. Now, see, before things got bad, we were too comfortable in our average life to put much thought into how to have an amazing life. Now our discomfort, it's actually the gift that we needed to begin building something different. So these are the lessons that I'm taking out of 2020, and I hope you'll give some thought to these things as well as they relate to your own life. If you want to explore all of this further with me, I want to actually invite you to join me for a 40-minute Zoom call. We'll take this conversation even deeper, and we'll spend our time doing 4 things together. We will, first of all, acknowledge that we do have an existential purpose from the moment that we're conceived that will not leave us alone through life until we are living it fully and joyfully. We will identify where you are in the 5 seasons of life. We'll uncover hidden clues about who you are and why you are here, clues that have always been there, but maybe you've not been paying attention, or maybe you've forgotten these things. And we will find the real you in the 4 expressions of human existence. So I have a number of these calls already set up and scheduled and ready to go. So in the description of this video below, I'll put a link where you can just simply click through to a web page where you'll see the calls that are scheduled. You'll pick a day and a time that works well for you and just register. Totally free, no charge at all. I just want to hang out with you guys for a while and take everything that we've talked about here a little bit deeper. So, thanks so much for watching this video with me. It would be amazing to meet you on a call, and hopefully I get to Zoom with you soon. Have a great day.